Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
We have a session on cargo work. Last session we were talking of heavy lift. We have not completed it. We were still in the discussion. So we continue our discussion on heavy lift to complete the topic. As I said, the question can be generic question. The cargo may differ. What are the precautions involved in hazards for planning, carriage, and loading and discharge of heavy lift cargo? So we were looking at the precautions. One of them being load density. Because it's a heavy lift cargo, so load density has to be taken into account. That it should be able, load density should be such that it should be able to take the weight of the cargo. If it is not sufficient, it can be spread out by laying tonnage. Laying tonnage means you are spreading out the area. Area you are increasing. Load, of course, you cannot alter because load is there. Whatever is the load of the cargo will be there, but you can spread out the weight by using tonnage. Meter square can be increased. In doing so, you will also take into account 5% weight. Extra weight means 100-ton cargo hai, so take it as 105 tons because 5% weight you will use. You will include that for the weight of heavy seas that may be shipped on deck. When they are shipped on deck, this weight is going to add on. So use 5% weight extra when you are calculating load density to allow for any shipment of the water over the cargo and adding on to the weight.
So this thing to be considered only for deck cargoes.
Actually में अगर आप देखो तो if you are trying to say कि you are loading it under deck and then you are allowing for shipment of sea, then there is something drastically wrong.
Yes, sir. Like allowance of 5% weight that should be only for deck cargoes only because inside there is no heavy seas or space, so we have no need to leave that space, right?
Yeah, logically, your
Yes.
hatch covers are supposed to be weather tight. Isn't it? Hatch covers are weather tight, right?
Yes, sir.
As a layman, what is the difference between weather tight and water tight?
Sir, weather tight is above waterline and watertight is below waterline, like summers.
In both the cases, water is not allowed to get in, whether weather tight or water tight. But in weather tight, it is allowed to come out. There is a very fundamental difference. So hatch covers are technically speaking weather tight. So where water cannot penetrate. When water cannot penetrate, then this problem about 5% of weight to be allowed for shipped seas is not included. But when it is on deck, this has to be done. Going further with the precautions, tonnage should be laid out. This will increase the friction between the deck and cargo, and also it will help to spread out the weight because you are using tonnage, so you are spreading out the weight. Tonnage nailed together, maybe 3-inch dunnage. You have only 1-inch thick dunnage, so you nail it together to make it 3-inch, and then spread it out. Spread it out so that you will increase the surface area. Then when you are planning the stowage of heavy lifts, securing points such as deck eyes, eye pads is also to be considered. Eye pads, deck eyes, etc. for availability of securing. And when you will go to the cargo securing manual, which is vessel specific, you will come to know what are the designated securing points for the location on which you are placing the load. This is another precaution you will take, planning the stowage using securing points available. That will factor in, that will decide where you can load, because you should have adequate securing points approved in the cargo securing manual for that vessel. The securing points must be identified and should be tested around, should be approved securing points. Eye pads welded on the cargo cannot be assumed to be securing points, as those could be only for road transportation. How will we know what are the eye pads welded on deck for securing, on the cargo welded for securing cargo itself for sea transport? This has to come from the shipper's declaration. He has to ensure that he declares what are the securing points he has made on the cargo to lash it for transportation at sea. MSDS, Material Safety Data Sheet from the shipper, will provide you the information regarding what are the eye pads welded on the cargo, which can be used as securing points for transportation at sea. Then these are the precautions during loading, prior and during loading. One thing is the vessel must be upright. Why do you think this is important? The vessel must be upright. Please remember one thing. We are looking at loading of heavy lifts using own gear, ship's gear. So does this make a important point that the vessel must be upright prior loading?
Yes, sir.
If you say yes, can you highlight why by discussion?
So because when we are picking up the heavy lift with our own ship's gear,
Yes.
when the vessel will, when the gear cargo crane will pick up the cargo, the whole load will shift to the head of boom, and then vessel can list to that side. If our vessel is already listed towards the jetty, like just assume the vessel is listed to the jetty already, then it will increase the list.
Correct. बिल्कुल ठीक कह रहे हैं आप. Along with that, what will happen? You have correctly remarked the load of the lift will shift to the derrick head or the crane head or the boom.
GM will reduce, G will go up, sir.
G is going to shift towards the crane head.
Yes, sir.
Consequently, you have a reduction in GM.
Yes, sir.
When you have reduction in GM, it can give rise to capsizing moment even while you are alongside, or
Yes.
it may bring her to what is called a moment which can capsize the vessel. So much reduced. That is why it is important that the vessel must be upright, no list initially, so that when the weight of the cargo shifts to the derrick head or the crane head or the boom head, if you are using derricks, it will not reduce the GM to such an effect that you can develop a capsizing moment or a negative GM. Negative GM is more appropriate for achievement class because you are sitting here, you are aware of what is negative GM. Unstable vessel बन सकता है. After all, GM is the distance between kg and km. when the kg is moving upwards towards the loaded weight, then it is reducing the distance between G and M. If you have a positive answer to Km minus Kg, a positive Gm, that is okay. But if you have a negative answer, that means you have negative Gm, which means it can arise. I'm not saying this will happen, but if you start with the initial listing moment already on the jetty side, as somebody is correctly remarked, and pick up the load, it may result in reduction of further reduction of Gm. So this is important, that she should be upright. Also, one thing is this for the calculation part. Another thing is that only by observing also you will come to know if she is listing too much. Because you have not started upright, you will not be able to make out. But if you have started upright prior loading, then you will be easily making out if she is listing heavily. In the same vein, in the same discussion, the stability of the vessel must be calculated, which is the calculation of the free surface moment or GM fluid before you start loading, prior loading. This has to take into account the weight of the cargo, heavy lift and the height of the derrick head for calculation how much will the GM be reduced. I hope you are writing small points because after all answers have to be given in writing. To make some small points which will help you to recall. This is why I keep highlighting in yellow. What about this point? Can somebody have an interaction with me? All ballast tanks to be pressed up.
Sir, to avoid the free surface
FSC.
effect in any tank, sir. To avoid the free surface effect.
बिल्कुल सही है. Either they should be pressed up, filled up fully, or they should be completely slack. No midway. To avoid any free surface moment caused by slack tanks. FSC. Then what is do you make out of this point? All the moorings to be tended and tightened. Any barges alongside to be cast off.
So to stop the movement of the vessel, to keep it steady and alongside, and with the barges, it's like if anything goes wrong, the barge will also suffer the damage with our own ship. If ship gets the capsizing moment, or in that condition, the barge will also come into that effect.
Which is going to increase the owner's liability. Now, when we say of moorings to be tended and tightened, what we try to understand is this. When you pick up the load from the jetty, heavy lifter, we have also agreed that it is going to cause a list because own gear is being used. So on the jetty side, towards the jetty side, you are picking up the load. The vessel is getting listed because of the load. Then what is happening to the mooring on the jetty side? Of course, on the jetty side only. What is going to happen to the mooring?
Loosen up, sir.
Sorry?
Loosen up, sir.
Loosen. They are slacken.
Yes, sir.
Right? When they are slack, what issue is taking place when they are slack? Suppose you are in a river port, you are loading heavy lift cargo in a river port, moorings become slack. Then what is the consequence of what can be involved in that? Your mooring slack in a river port.
Ship could get in the current, and with current effect, it could just move away from the jetty, or moorings can get parted after some time, because when we are picking up the load from jetty, then ship is listing towards the jetty. Once the load will come on the ship, like in the center line or the load place, the ship will try to come in the actual position. At that time, the tension will be there on the ropes, and with the jerk or with the jerky movement, it can get parted.
Okay, I agree with you. What else could be a case? This is one thing. This is 100% correct what you're saying. But because you are in a river port, just hypothetical scenario, and ships are going up and down. With your mooring slack, what can happen?
Surging.
Surging. Very, very important. Surging can take place,
Yes, sir.
so that can lead to some harm. Surging,
Yes.
vessel can move now.
Yes.
Despite everything in order, mooring slack so the vessel can surge. When the vessel surges, you are now in a way of harm.
Yes.
You can come off the jetty, you can have your gangway damaged, etc. So important to have the moorings also tended and tightened before you pick up lead, the heavy lift. Of course, the place chosen for storage should be clean, dry, and clear of oil to avoid any accidents. This goes without saying. This is simple to understand. Dunnage area to be calculated, allowing 5% of heavy seas. Right? These are some precautions during loading, prior loading and during loading. Now, when you are loading using your own gear, ensure that the rigging is as per rigging plan for derricks. There is a rigging plan included in the chain register, so use that. Of course, you are going to ensure that winch drivers, signal men, etc. are experienced. They are well versed with the whole operation and nothing goes wrong as far as signaling is concerned. You should make clear the area for loading of unwanted, or if I can use the word unwanted, means who are not involved with the loading operation or discharge operation or the operation of cargo work, they should not be there. Make them clear out so that lesser number of people means lesser liability, lesser things to be taken care of. Before you actually do it, you actually do the loading, make sure that you have tested out the derrick or the crane for full reach and back, and then see that everything is clear. Heel fittings, nothing is getting cracked up, etc. Try it out before you actually do it. Slings used should be appropriate for the load being lifted, including uh, certificates. Means that slings are certified to be used. Slinging points, as I said, slinging points and securing points on the cargo should come from MSDS. If not, then you have to ask for it from the shipper. A steadying line to the heavy lift to avoid any sway of the lift of the cargo. It is a good idea to have a steadying line, so that you can control the movement of the cargo as you are moving it around. All these points have to go in your precautions. Apart from something more we are going to look at, but these are important points which you should be keeping in mind. Securing. The cargo can be lost overboard, definitely if you are loading on deck because of weather conditions and various forces involved, including accelerating forces because of the movement of the vessel. You can have an accident, you can have a heavy lift damage or loss overboard. This is why it has to be secured properly. Practically speaking, this is a very important point. Insufficient time and people allowed to complete lashing prior departure. I'm sure you have been involved and you will recall, if you have worked on bulk carriers or general cargo vessels, that the lashing gang who actually does the securing of the cargo may be different from the loading gang. And the lashing gang might be being paid per hour. So what they want, or they might be getting paid by the weight of the cargo they are securing. So they are in a hurry to complete this because their money will come from how much cargo they have lashed. That is why they will be in a hurry and they will always come out and tell you everything is done. Obviously, the onus of declaring that it is done depends on the chief officer, which is you. Whether or not it is done, it is to your satisfaction. So insufficient time can lead to incomplete lashing. It is also possible that lashing materials are taken around unprotected sharp edges of the cargo, which means that they can get chapped off. So you must ensure that if you are taking lashing material around unprotected sharp edges, it should be sheathed. Means it should have a plastic sheath so that it does not get damaged. The lashing material does not get damaged.
Okay, sir.
हाँ जी बोलिए.
No, I said okay, sir. Okay.
Okay. A very important point is here: incorrect method of use of bulldog grips. Okay, when you are using lashing material or when you are considering lashing, then you have to take into account the motion of the vessel and consequent accelerating forces. Rolling period for deciding how much strength of lashing. You recall what is a stiff vessel and a tender vessel?
Yes, sir. The vessel which rolls or rolling period is less and loading period is more. Some comes back to the original position faster, some comes back to
Yeah,
slower.
but which vessel are you talking about, stiff or tender? You're right, rolling period. But I'm saying stiff vessel के लिए ज़्यादा होगा या tender vessel के लिए ज़्यादा होगा, rolling period
Stiff vessel के लिए rolling period कम होगा सर.
कम होगा, right? Tender vessel के लिए ज़्यादा होगा. So as an example, tender vessel का एक example is timber deck cargo that gives rise to a tender vessel. Means the rolling period is quite large. पालने की तरह इधर से उधर जाता है वो. You can have a very comfortable voyage. Stiff vessel, the roll period is very short.
So for example,
Vessel loaded with steel cargo, under deck steel cargo.
अच्छा जनरल
इसका
कार्गो.
जो, हाँ जी, sorry,
जनरल कार्गो भी हो सकता है ना सर.
हो सकता है. See, it will depend on the GM. It will depend on the GM, right? 1 minute. Let me just build on this one. 1 minute. इसको चलने का ऐसे ही. नहीं ये भी नहीं. Just give me a minute. I need to talk about this. रोलिंग पीरियड के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं, राइट? So actually
Yes,
speaking, one method is this one. T is the rolling period, is given by this formula for small vessels. Can be generalized, but this is the formula used to calculate the time period or roll period. 2 pi k upon under root of G into Gm. Now, as you can see, G simple hai. This is the force of acceleration, 9.81 meter per second square. Gm, what we are talking about is GM fluid. So if you see, and K is a radius of gyration, which is a constant for a particular displacement. K, radius of gyration, it is given and tabulated in your stability particulars for a given displacement. So that is also a constant for a displacement. And T is the time period. Now, if you see, with all these things, pi is also a constant, K is a constant, G is constant, then T is inversely proportional to Gm. In nutshell. And this is fluid, GM fluid. So T is inversely proportional to GM, which means if the GM is small, time period or roll period is large. If the GM is large, then the time period becomes shorter. And M, of course, is a fixed point. So your GM becomes very large. Consequently, your T is very small. Steel cargo ka.
Okay, sir.
This is only as a guideline. Since we were talking about it, I thought let me mention it. This is only a topic you will cover, of course, in the naval arc, but this is also something you will need to remember that role of time period is dependent on GM, inversely proportional.
Yes, sir.
This is also something you will take into account while you are calculating your lashings. Slip vessel, violent roll, time period very small. For a handy size bulk carrier, steel cargo loaded under deck, like coils, etc., coils, steel pipes, etc., loaded on the deck. Handy size bulk carrier, 50,000 tonner. The GM is something like 6.7 meters. GM. Roll period is something like 4 or 5 seconds. Roll period from one side to other, very fast. Step vessel. Same vessel loaded with timber deck cargo. GM becomes about maybe 0.8, 1 meter something, and roll period is something like 14 to 15 seconds. It becomes a tender vessel. This is why I say you will have to keep into account this much also, that your time period is calculated or taken into account before you calculate the amount of lashing and the strength of lashings. Then we go to securing, which we have seen. Now, the rule of the road, so as to say, is like this. First of all, securing should be done under good supervision. This has to go as a precaution. You have to mention it as a precaution, even though you may say it is an assumed thing. No. As far as the paper is concerned, the academic answer is concerned, this has to be mentioned that cargo should be secured under the supervision of an experienced and competent person. Now, how actually you determine the lashing is a very important thing, which I fully agree, and I believe this is very important. When you start assume the worst case scenario, which is it is to be done assuming vessel is going to encounter severe weather immediately after departure. उसके हिसाब से securing करो. Presuming that the vessel is going to encounter heavy weather right after departure. You know, I was told by a lashing foreman, experienced foreman, when we had loaded deck cargo of timber on deck at Lirkin, Chile. And he was just hurrying the whole lashing thing. And I was telling him this is not enough. He said, don't worry, Captain, many times like this. Many times, especially इस जहाज में ठीक नहीं है. I disagree. So I said, are you not bothered about the safety of our life when we move out at sea? Are you not bothered that this lashing may give way? Because after the breakwater, the lashing may break. You know what he told me? Interesting thing which has stayed with me for so many times, so many years. He told me, Captain, I am only bothered to see you off, to pass the breakwater. After that, it's your problem. So this is a lookout of the lashing guy. He just wants to see you off the breakwater, and then his job is done. This is why you, as chief officer, will have to take care that lashing is done properly. Do not leave the berth. The lashing gang cannot depart until you say that the lashing is done. So keep on insisting on securing.
Okay, sir.
So lashing should be done correctly, consulted with cargo securing manual, and they should be able to withstand a rolling of 30 degree in a 13-second rolling period. Just as a broad guideline, they should be able to withstand 30 degree rolling in a 13-second rolling period.
Just a
Please,
moment, sir. ये लिख लें सर इसमें.
हाँ लिखिए please लिखिए. I am most interested that you note down, because even I will pass on something to you, but if you note down, you will remember, because that will also help you to revise. When you go back to the things which you have noted down, you will know that this is important because you noted it down. So I fully encourage, do note down. And this is the correct way. You may stop me. We can give you some time. Please note down. It is not punishment. After all, you are chief officers, but this will help you to pass the exam, which is the ultimate goal.
Yes, sir. लिख लिया sir.
Okay. Because I was reading some WhatsApp exchanges in your group, somebody remarked that we will hardly use this at sea, whatever he was talking about. Somehow, I think he is right. Academics and practical is different.
So what he mentioned, sir?
That
What context?
अब मुझे exactly याद नहीं है यार, ना इतना मेरे पास patience है to go back to it. But somewhere in your group, in the WhatsApp, he said we will hardly use it on board, whatever thing. Which I think he's right. Practical and academic levels are different. Practicality and academically things are different. But
Yes, sir. वो तो हर सब्जेक्ट में सर डिफरेंट है सर. हर सब्जेक्ट में बहुत कुछ है सर ऐसे तो.
हाँ, पर आपको लिखना पड़ेगा ना.
हाँ जी,
एग्जाम तो पास करना है ना. Final game is to pass the exam. For which purpose you have to involve yourself academically also, whether or not you practically do it or not. Just as an example, not my subject, but I was seeing through. I think you did trim type A today.
Yes, sir.
Okay. अब trim type A gentlemen, ये आप यूज करेंगे क्या जहाज पे?
Sir, on a actual on a piece of paper, no, sir. But on no.
मैं बात कर रहा हूँ practicality और academically things are different, but you need trim type A to pass the exam. उसके सवाल आते हैं MMD एग्जाम में.
Yes, sir.
अब trim type A में कितनी चीजें तुम assume कर रहे हो? So many things you are assuming which are not practical. Can you recall? Number one, you are assuming that the cargo loaded is right on the center of flotation. That is why you are calculating mean sinkage, or it is being discharged right from the COF. That is why you calculate mean discharge.
Yes, sir.
Mean change in draft, right? That is the assumption. Cargo could be loaded anywhere, but for trim type A, you are assuming that this is being done right from the center of flotation. तभी तो mean sinkage और mean वो निकालते हो तुम. Mean sinkage या mean rising का मतलब क्या हो? Mean rise या mean sinkage का मतलब COF के ऊपर हो रहा है, which is not really correct. It could be anywhere.
Yes, sir.
Then you will go on type B and type C, but those will be done from Winship, which is the correct method, practical method. You may load the cargo anywhere away from the COF. Then you will take moments about the COF. Anyway.
सर अभी इसकी बात हुई है तो सर एक क्वेश्चन पूछना था. ये अपने सर इसमें एग्जाम में स्टेबिलिटी में सर ये जैसे ट्रिम ए अभी हम कर रहे हैं, जैसे सर लिस्ट कभी ऐसा हुआ कि लिस्ट का नॉर्मल सुब्रमण्यम वाली चैप्टर जो लिस्ट का चैप्टर है उसमें से कोई क्वेश्चन आ जाए फेस 1 के एग्जाम में?
ठीक है, मैं लेकिन ये क्लियर नहीं समझ पाया. लिस्ट का क्वेश्चन तो लिस्ट का क्वेश्चन है.
नहीं सर, आई मीन टू से सर जैसे सुब्रमण्यम कैप्टन सुब्रमण्यम वाली किताब में से या उसी टाइप का लिस्ट के चैप्टर से रिलेटेड कोई क्वेश्चन डायरेक्टली आ जाए पेपर में, जैसे ग्राउंडिंग
आ सकता है.
नहीं अभी तक आपने सर देखा है सर कभी लाइक आया हुआ, या मतलब ट्रिम के आगे के ही आते हैं या जस्ट फॉर आस्किंग सर?
नहीं यार, आ सकता है. देखो ऐसा है, मैंने आपसे मेंशन किया था द पार्ट यू हैव ऑलरेडी कवर्ड इन सेकंड मिनट्स इट इज अज्यूम्ड कि वो ऑलरेडी कवर्ड है, सो एग्जामिनर इज एट लिबर्टी टू सेट अ क्वेश्चन फ्रॉम देयर।
ओके सर।
एक बात बताओ, since we are talking about it, it's not my subject, but since you have raised the thing, let me ask you something. Vessel is listed, ये दिया हुआ है क्वेश्चन में, vessel is listed so many degrees to starboard या port, right? सब कुछ दिया हुआ है, उसके डायमेंशन दिए हुए हैं, डिस्प्लेसमेंट दी हुई है, लिस्ट दिया हुआ है, and then the question says find how much water to be transferred from starboard tank to port tank to correct the list. ये क्वेश्चन।
ओके सर।
तो एक्चुअली इसमें क्या है इन्वॉल्वमेंट, अगर आप देखो तो सिंपल बेसिक है, यू विल कैलकुलेट द इनिशियल लिस्टिंग मोमेंट
हाँ जी सर।
एंड देन यू विल से ILM इनिशियल लिस्टिंग मोमेंट इज इक्वल टू FLM फाइनल लिस्टिंग मोमेंट। फाइनल लिस्टिंग मोमेंट में यू हैव टू कैलकुलेट द W जो अननोन है, बस
यस
दो
सर।
लाइन में आंसर होता है ये, 2 स्टेप्स में। और ये भी एक बाउंसर है, यू नो हाउ दिस इज अ बाउंसर, क्योंकि कैंडिडेट कह रहा है कि यार ये कहीं मैं गलती कर रहा हूँ, ये इतना छोटा आंसर हो ही नहीं सकता, देयर इज समथिंग आई एम मेकिंग अ मिस्टेक, सो दैट आल्सो एक्ट्स लाइक अ बाउंसर। यू डू नॉट ट्रस्ट योरसेल्फ, 2
Yes,
steps
sir.
and you are done with the question, 25 marks.
Sir, can happen.
Anji. So please be aware, please be very careful. It is not only a very difficult question which can act as a bouncer, a very easy one can also be a bouncer, because that is also giving you a shock. राइट चलो चलते हैं इसमें चलते हैं, कार्गो वर्क में, भावनाओं में निभाना, कार्गो वर्क में चलते हैं। यूज बुलडॉग ग्रिप्स इंस्टेड ऑफ सॉफ्ट आइज, मींस स्प्लाइस करके बनाने की बजाय यूज बुलडॉग ग्रिप्स, बट देन यू हैव टू मेक श्योर दैट यू यूज बुलडॉग ग्रिप्स करेक्टली। eye splicing is time consuming, one thing, and strength of the tucked wires, because you are tucking the wires in the eye splice, this reduces the strength of the lashing, but bulldog grips can achieve up to 90% of the holding power. So bulldog grips are easily recommended, not only in cargo work here but also in the code of safe working practices, bulldog grips. The only thing is to use the bulldog grips correctly. जो अभी देखते हैं, let us have a look since we are on the subject, कि what is the correct use of bulldog grips, correct method of use of bulldog grips. ठीक है, first of all the spacing of bulldog grips, एक bulldog grip और second spacing should be 6 times the diameter of the wire. That is the recommended spacing from the code of safe working practices, COSWP. Spacing of the bulldog grips should be 6 times the diameter of the wire. Saddle part of the grip should be on the live wire, working part, and the U-bolt should be on the dead end. You get this picture? I mean, do you understand what I'm saying?
हाँ जी सर, ये लास्ट सर कार्गो वर्क के उसमें दिखाया था सर इमेज फोटोग्राफ, जो लूज एंड है वो नीचे होना चाहिए तो दूसरा वाला वो ऊपर।
राइट, लास्ट कार्गो वर्क क्लास में
सर वो रणबीर सर की क्लास कर रहे हैं ना सर साथ में।
सर टिम्बर कोड
करवाया था तो उसमें लैशिंग वगैरह।
ओके, वेरी गुड वेरी गुड। एनीवे, फॉर योर बेनिफिट दिस इज द वन, दिस इज द मेथड। डेड एंड के ऊपर आ रहा है यू बोल्ट, और सैडल जो है वो आ रहा है लाइव एंड पे, ये यू ये आ रहा है डेड एंड पे, मतलब इस तरीके से बन रहा है। क्लैंप आ गया आपका डेड एंड पे और लाइव एंड पे आया सैडल जो घुस गया। This ensures maximum rope strength for the use of bulldog grips. Purpose सेम है, ये आपने आई बनाई है बुलडॉग ग्रिप को लेके, you can You can make the eye also by making a eye splice, लेकिन उसकी strength कम होगी. So recommended is to use the bulldog grip. This is the diagram you are talking about.
No sir, the photographs from the image.
Maybe you can just have a small sketch of this one.
Yes sir. Yes, sir.
इसको मैं पास कर देता हूँ चैट बॉक्स में. जो हमारे सेकंड मेट्स हैं वो बड़े फास्ट है यार. वो क्या करते हैं, इसका स्क्रीनशॉट ले लेते हैं, कहते हैं हो गया ये.
तो वो तो सबने लिए हैं सर.
चलो कोई बात नहीं. अब एक मिनट रुकना, मैं इसको तुम्हारी चैट बॉक्स में डाल देता हूँ ताकि तुम्हारे पास रिकॉर्ड रहे.
सर वो आप इसका सर वो लिंक शेयर करेंगे ना सर आप बाद में?
हाँ इमीडिएटली नहीं, लेकिन
नहीं लेटर ऑन. हाँ जी हाँ जी.
As we complete the topic, I will. ओके, जो हम लोग बात कर रहे थे डिस्कशन, वो इस पे है, चैट बॉक्स में है. यू कैन डाउनलोड इट, बुलडॉग ग्रिप्स पिक्चर. ओके, see if you can download it. इनफैक्ट तुम्हारे व्हाट्सएप पे भी डाल सकता हूँ मैं.
Can download, sir. Opened already.
You can download, right?
Yes, sir. Can.
Okay. MP1, phase 1, August 2021. I think I have got it going in your WhatsApp also. This picture for bulldog grips. देखना यार मिलता तो.
तो यहाँ पे हो गया था डाउनलोड.
ओके जी. एंड WhatsApp पे भी मैंने डाल दिया है.
थैंक यू.
ओके जी, लेट्स कंटिन्यू. So this was about bulldog grips. Shared screen here. To be used very carefully and extensively for any cargo, but heavy lift we are talking right now. Now, number of grips to be used. एक चीज और याद रखना, by code of safe working practices, advisable to make an eye and leave it overnight before use, ताकि वो compact हो जाए अपने आप में. Always hand tied. Do not use pneumatic spanners because hand tied will tell you the amount of strength you have used to tighten the grip. That will give you an idea. Number of grips to be used. That is depending on the diameter of the wire. So you can see here up to 19 mm, 3 grips. 19 mm to 32 mm, 4 grips. 32 to 38, 5 grips. 38 to 44, 6 grips. And over 44 mm, 7 grips and more. This is the number of grips. That depends on the, is directly proportional to the diameter of the wire. Strength of the lashing, 3 times the design load. 3 times the design load. What is the design load? Total weight of the cargo plus accelerating forces of 0.7 g athwartship, 1 g vertically, and 0.3 g longitudinally. That is the design load. Or when you are taking the lashing strength, it should be 3 times the design load.
सर ये किसका है सर, ये 3 times of design load?
For the lashing use to secure
कोई
cargo.
भी सर कोई भी लैशिंग ले, किसी भी टाइप के हैं?
नहीं, एक lashing आप use करोगे ना. Lashing means, let us say you are using a wire lashing to secure the cargo. Then how much should be the weight of the lashing? Means the strength of the lashing. इसकी बात हो रही है.
सर ये तो अलग अलग मटेरियल का अलग अलग होगा ना फिर?
नहीं, वो देखो बात हो रही है उसकी स्ट्रेंथ की. ब्रेकिंग स्ट्रेंथ
जैसे सर फॉर एग्जांपल सर, जैसे एक 20 टन, लेट्स से 20 टन्स की गाड़ी है, उसकी लैशिंग कर रहे हैं, वेब लैशिंग से लैश कर रहे हैं उसको, और एक वेब लैशिंग 2 टन्स होल्ड कर सकता है. उसका मैक्सिमम सिक्योरिंग लोड जो है वो 2 टन है.
उसका डिजाइन लोड?
हाँ जी सर, उसका 2 टन है.
नहीं, हाउ मच द टोटल वेट ऑफ द कार्गो?
सर 20 टन्स लेट्स से.
टोटल वेट प्लस
20.
अब आप उसको लैश कैसे कर रहे हो? थॉर्शिप कर रहे हो, वर्टिकली कर रहे हो, लॉन्गिट्यूडनली?
सर मैं तो सर अभी सीधा कर रहा हूँ, लेट्स से मैं अर्थवर्ड शिप कर रहा हूँ, अर्थवर्ड शिप कर रहा हूँ.
देन इट विल बी टोटल वेट ऑफ द कार्गो प्लस 0.7 g इन द थॉर्शिप डायरेक्शन.
सर जी में क्या आएगा सर इसमें भी?
9.8
ग्रेविटेशन वाला. ओके.
यस, जी थोड़ी बदलेगा, चाहे कोई सी भी क्लास हो, 2021 की हो चाहे 2025 की हो, जी तो वही रहेगा.
ओके सर.
सो होल्डिंग पावर भी होगी, ये जो बात कर रहे थे अभी दिस जेंटलमैन, यू नो, for a 10 ton cargo, total holding power of lashing shall be 30 tons. Means what? 3 times the static weight of the cargo in tons. Holding power, vertical holding power 3 times. तो अगर 10 टन कार्गो है तो 30 टन होल्डिंग पावर होनी चाहिए. Athwartship holding power is 70% of the vertical holding power. So when we are still looking at 10 ton cargo, athwartship lashing will be of 21 tons, 70% of the vertical holding power. If you want, you can note it down, or you can at least keep in mind that this is how it will be figured out. एक मिनट रुकना, let me see if I can.
लिख लो सर, लिख लो.
हाँ, लिखो, don't worry. I'm just trying to copy it out and pass it on to you also. लिख लो, कोई दिक्कत नहीं. नहीं, गायब हो रहा है. It's not staying. Let me try again. Never mind. लिख लो. A thwart shape 70% of the vertical, longitudinal 30% of the vertical holding power. I'm giving you a minute.
Okay, sir.
Since people are noting down, no problem.
हो गया सर.
Okay, जी. We can move on. Best place to load will be, at the cross sections. If you will remember, underneath the tank top, क्या है आपके पास? Underneath the tank top है होल्ड का, उसके नीचे क्या है? बल कैरियर में उसके नीचे क्या है?
डबल बॉटम.
डबल बॉटम. तो डबल बॉटम ठीक है, बिल्कुल सही है, डबल बॉटम. अब डबल बॉटम कैसे कंस्ट्रक्टेड होगा? इट विल हैव transverse frames running inside and longitudinal frames, right? डबल बॉटम में डी उसके टैंक टॉप के नीचे. तो जहां ये क्रॉस कर रहे हैं, where the tank top, where the longitudinals and the transverse frames are crossing each other, those are the best places because that will have the maximum strength. प्लेट फ्लोर, सॉलिड फ्लोर जहां पे क्रॉस कर रहे हैं, यू गेट माय पॉइंट? यहाँ पे क्रॉस कर रहे हैं, मतलब आपका एक अथॉट शिप वो आ रहा है, एक बल्केट ऐसे आ रहा है और आपका एक लॉन्गिट्यूडनल ऐसे आ रहा है, ये क्रॉस कर रहा है ना यहाँ पे. दिस इज द बेस्ट प्लेस टू स्ट्रेंथन. अब तुम्हारा जो तुम कार्गो ऊपर रख रहे हो इसके, इट शुड हैव सम बेयरिंग ऑन दिस, ताकि बेस्ट प्लेस हो जाएगा वो. इट इज स्पेशली स्ट्रेंथन बिकॉज इट इज हैविंग अ ओवरलैप और क्रॉस सेक्शन. By and large, preferably the cargo, heavy lift cargo should be loaded inside, under deck, by and large, to avoid GM concerns. By and large, it should be loaded under deck. But, of course, bill of lading, etc. will determine whether, and the nature of the cargo, the dimension of the cargo will determine कि उसको आप inside हैच रख सकते हो कि नहीं. अगर रख सकते हो, then the best preference will be to load under deck. Right? Then something regarding taking precaution like this. One minute, I'll come back to this. Let's see if I've not missed out anything. This one we did. Details of securing point, detail of lifting points. Right, this we did this in the PPT. Pre-planning information. Then we move on. Now we are looking at the examples of heavy lift के yachts को stored on deck, carriage of heavy lift items on deck in a cradle. Cradles are also very important because they give you strength for putting it on deck. These type of cradles. Note the securing of the yacht. Not only it is a heavy lift item, it also becomes an expensive cargo. Good freight the ship owner will have. Any shape, any size can be used as a heavy lift cargo, is used as heavy lift cargo, including pipes, very important, ex-Kuantan, Malaysia. अच्छा एक चीज थी, maybe I forgot to mention. I think I did, but no harm in repeating. Please remember when you are writing the answer for precautions to be exercised during prior loading, do mention carrying out of a detailed risk assessment, DRA, prior loading. पूरा risk assessment होना चाहिए before you start loading. That should be the first point, first precaution to be taken. Carry out DRA, Delta Romeo Alpha, DRA, detailed risk assessment to be carried out for the purpose of loading heavy lift cargo. That should be the first point. Maybe I missed out, but please remember it. Also, preferably, if you are using cranes in tandem, derricks in tandem, means together, as per rigging plan, the operation should be carried out in daylight for better visibility of the signal man. Right? These are some points, of course, we are still on the job. Gentlemen, we take a KitKat break. We come back and meet at 15:45.
Okay, sir.
Okay, ji. Okay, presume you're back. I was just looking so I can, start marking also. For example, this part has been done. I think my Captain Rana. Can you see the share screen? Timber deck cargo.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, can see.
Okay. This is only for recollecting, nothing to do with you, so that I know what has been done. And then we have done this one. Heavy lift. So that we will be knowing क्या हो चुका है क्या होना है. So this is one way to do it. ये हो गया. And now we will move on to this one. Maid seat, bill of lading, charter parties, note of protest. ठीक है. ये अब next अपना टॉपिक बनेगा. Starting from now. Maid seat, bill of lading, types of BL, what is bill of lading, charter parties, note of protest.
सर एक बार ये वाला टॉपिक वापस समझा दो. नीड टू एडुकेट इनिशियल जीएम वाला जो लास्ट, क्या कहना चाह रहा है?
अभी क्या कहना चाह रहा है इसमें? ये कह रहा है वो कि बिकॉज इनिशियल जीएम एडिकेट होनी चाहिए, नहीं तो एज यू आर लिफ्टिंग बाय योर गियर वी डिस्कस्ड योर जीएम विल गेट रिड्यूस्ड, isn't it? As we lift up the load. So if you do not have adequate initial GM, you can wind up with negative GM. That is why you need to have adequate initial GM. Remember we talked about it. क्योंकि तुम्हारा कार्गो लिफ्ट हो रहा है शिप्स गियर से, with the ship's gear. So as the cargo is being picked up, the weight of the cargo is shifting on the crane head or derrick head. kg तुम्हारा ऊपर की तरफ जा रहा है. It is rising. Consequently तुम्हारा GM reduce हो रहा है. So if you do not have initial adequate GM, you can end up while lifting cargo, you can end up with negative GM, which can mean that you can even have a negative initial moment, capsizing moment. बोलो समझे कि नहीं?
समझ गया सर.
हाँ, इतने धीरे आवाज क्यों आ रही है? स्ट्रॉन्ग आवाज नहीं आई कि समझा कि नहीं? हमने बात करी थी कि लेट अस से दिस इज द जेटी साइड. ये तुम्हारा की साइड है. दिस इज द जेटी साइड and some heavy lift cargo has been kept here to be picked up, right? ये यहाँ पे जेटी साइड हो गई और यहाँ पे एक कार्गो रखा हुआ है टू बी पिक्ड अप. कार्गो हमने ऐसे रख दिया है यहाँ पे. दिस कार्गो इज टू बी पिक्ड अप यूजिंग योर गियर, शिप्स गियर. तो फ्रॉम द क्रेन जो विच इज ऑन बोर्ड ऐसे ये तुम्हारा शिप हो गया अलॉन्ग साइड. यू गॉट द गियर क्रेन. यहाँ से तुमने ये कार्गो उठाना है. व्हेन यू पिकअप दिस कार्गो व्हाट इज हैपनिंग? ये कार्गो आपने पिकअप करना है फ्रॉम द क्रेन. दिस इज द क्रेन, आवर शिप्स क्रेन. देन व्हाट इज हैपनिंग एज यू लिफ्ट अप this load is being lifted up. So what is happening to the load? It is the weight of the load is getting transferred here. यहाँ पे ट्रांसफर हो रहा है at the derrick head or the crane head, right? That's the principle. जब ये लोड उठा लिया जेटी से तो इसका वेट ट्रांसफर हो गया on the derrick head.
Yes sir.
Right. Now if नहीं वो हो ही रहा है. If now after the weight has been transferred to the derrick head, what happens to the kg of the vessel?
It will move to the head of the.
Correct. It will move to the head of the crane because
Great.
kg means the height of the G from the keel. Keel यहाँ पे है, यहाँ पे कील है, तो ये kg जो है ये बढ़ जाएगी, ऐसे ऊपर की तरफ जाएगी. Consequently, you will have a reduction in the distance between km and kg, which means gm कम हो रहा है. gm कम हो रहा है, which means you should have initial adequate gm so that even if this thing is happening, your gm does not become so much reduced that you land up with negative gm. The meaning why you should have adequate gm initially.
ओके सर.
It's okay.
सर
Anything
इसका
हाँ बोलो.
ये सर
बोलो.
शिप के क्रेन का है. हाँ शिप के क्रेन का है ना. ठीक है.
देखो बेटा, अगर तुम सही समझे हो तो we have always talked about the concern of heavy lift loaded on board using
विद
ship's gear.
ओन केयर. हाँ जी विद
Own
ओन
gear.
केयर.
और देखो 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 देखो, एक मिनट दो मुझे, एक मिनट और दो, then the thing will be clear. Let us say you have a shore crane here. ये shore crane है एक. इससे तुमने इस कार्गो को उठाना है और यहाँ पे रखना है, यहाँ पे. How does it make a difference to you now? Of course.
सर अब
the
मेरा
thing-
केजी इतना मूव नहीं हो रहा ना अब.
नहीं, तुम्हारा जो
तो जब तक जहाज में नहीं पहुंचेगा तब तक केजी में कोई डिफरेंस ही नहीं आएगा.
Say again please.
जब शोर क्रेन से उठाओगे तो जब तक जहाज पे नहीं रखा जाएगा केजी में कोई डिफरेंस नहीं है.
हाँ, कोई फर्क नहीं है, तुम्हें कोई कंसर्न नहीं है, क्योंकि ये शोर क्रेन है. जब ये उठाएगी इस वेट को तो इसका वेट यहाँ चला गया शोर क्रेन पे. हाउ डज इट मेक अ डिफरेंस टू यू? फिर तुम इसको लेके आए, इस वेट को तुम लेके आए और फिर तुमने इसको यहाँ पे रख दिया ऑन बोर्ड. अब तुम्हें फर्क पड़ेगा. Now your kg is affected, but it is not something like affected like this when you are using your own gear, because then when you use your own gear, the weight of the cargo will shift on top of the derrick head. Then you got a concern. So, if you remember, we started our discussion by a simple one-liner that concern is of loading heavy lift using your own gear. Shore gear है तो इतना concern नहीं है. Of course, load density, the place of location of placing the load, heavy lift, that is also a concern. वो तो आप देखोगे ही. But initial जो problems है regarding GM etc. वो figure नहीं करेंगी because you are using shore gear. So loading heavy lift using own gear is the point. ठीक है जी. Shall we move on? Anything else? No problem. If somebody has got any other issue, please raise it. Ajay, shall we continue? Or you got something
Yes,
else to be raised? There's no problem with me. We are here to cover these things. So ये मैंने मार्क कर लिया कि ग्रीन कलर में जो हमने मार्क किया टिम्बर डेक कार्गो हो गया, कैप्टन लर्नर लिया और ये मैंने कवर किया आपके साथ. So these two topics are done. Now let us move to competence 1.3, which is receiving, telling and delivering cargo. I am just going chronological. मैं skip नहीं मार रहा हूँ. I am just going back chronological order, right? So let's look at this one now. Telling, delivering, receiving by maid's receipt, bill of lading, charter parties, note of protest. By any chance, have you heard of the term note of protest?
Yes sir.
हाँ जी.
सर लेटर ऑफ प्रोटेस्ट है. नोट ऑफ प्रोटेस्ट.
Letter of protest नहीं, वो अलग है. Note of protest.
Yes sir, look, yes sir.
You have heard?
Yes sir, against low loading rate
Shashipal,
Yes, sir.
you have come across this term during your sailing days called note of protest. It
Yes,
is
sir.
not a test of
LOP, sir. LOP, letter of protest.
LOP ठीक है, LOP is something different. Note of protest. इसमें फर्क है, लेटर ऑफ प्रोटेस्ट और नोट ऑफ प्रोटेस्ट में फर्क है.
सर इसमें एक कंडीशन ये भी होगी, अगर जैसे हमें कार्गो की ग्रेड अगर रॉन्ग सप्लाई की जाती है तब जो लेटर दिया जाता है वो नोट ऑफ प्रोटेस्ट है या लेटर ऑफ प्रोटेस्ट है?
किस केस में ऋषभ?
जैसे मेरे शिप पे वन ऑफ माय शिप वाज गोइंग फॉर लोडिंग इन चाइना द आयरन ओर.
Okay.
Yeah, but there are two different grades. They told us the different grade first, and when the ship arrived for loading, they gave the different load, different type of grade of the cargo. And at that time, master gave a letter to them. I'm not sure it was letter of protest or note of protest.
Is it Rishabh Lohraj who is talking?
Yes,
Or Shivang?
Sir, this is Shivang now.
Okay.
सर बेसिकली नोट ऑफ प्रोटेस्ट जब होता है जब आपका पूरा नॉट बिफोर द वर्क आफ्टर द वर्क, लाइक वी हैड लोडेड समथिंग and any container we had loaded and we are sailing, but due to bad weather we have to, some of the containers are get down from the vessel, उनको अपन को हटाना पड़ा. तो because then we will give the note of protest and we have to notify in the court also for this.
Okay, I've heard you, Shivang. I need to go back to Rishabh. What were you saying, Rishabh Lohraj?
sir, I was saying मेरा शिप चाइना में लोडिंग के लिए गया था आयरन ओर. फर्स्ट द कार्गो वाज असाइंड, इट वाज आयरन ओर H150.
Okay.
And when we arrived for loading, at that time the cargo, there was a sample there were some sample reports in which it was mentioned iron ore H400.
Okay.
So at that time master issued a letter of protest or note of protest from you that in this condition which letter will be issued.
Okay. Now, firstly, Rishabh and everyone else, you must understand, we are looking at a difference between NOP, November Oscar Papa, note of protest, and LOP, Lima Oscar Papa, letter of protest. इसमें एक फर्क है. फर्क क्या है? Note of protest is not against anyone. Note of protest is against unavoidable circumstances. You understand? Note of protest.
सर ये वो तो नहीं होता जैसे
एक मिनट चेतन, एक मिनट. Let us start the discussion. एक मिनट. उसके बाद you will have ample time to raise queries. But let me finish. Let me at least introduce you to the subject. फिर आपके queries address करेंगे. So there is a basic difference between what you call note of protest and LOP, letter of protest. In Rahul's case, no sorry, in Rishabh's case, it was letter of protest. Why? Because the grade being offered now to load was different from what it was said in the charter party. Then it is a letter of protest because in this letter, the vessel is holding somebody responsible for this, if I can use mix up. But note of protest is against nobody. It is against the unavoidable circumstances. It is issued by the master of course and notarized in the notary public. It is against nobody. But letter of protest is holding somebody responsible. That is a basic difference. So from an overview, what I understand, in Rishabh's case, where the grades were mixed up, this will be a letter of protest because master of that particular vessel was holding the charterer or the shipper responsible for the mix-up of the grades. Accountable for mix-up. When there is nobody accountable, unforeseen circumstances beyond the control of the vessel, then it is called note of protest. चेतन बोलो.
सर मैं जस्ट एग्जांपल ट्राई करना चाहता हूँ. इज इट लाइक समथिंग हमने लेट्स से सीमेंट लोड करना है और वो जेट्टी पे पड़ा है और काफ़ी हैवी क्वांटिटी में वो आ चुका है जेट्टी पे और उसी टाइम बारिश आने लग जाती है जबकि उसके प्रॉपर्टी थी कि उसमें पानी कंटेंट नहीं होएगा, बट अब उसमें वाटर लेवल ज़्यादा हो गया तो उस केस में नोटिस ऑफ प्रोटेस्ट इशू करेंगे?
LOP.
LOP.
नहीं, उसमें तो मैं किसी को
LOP,
अकाउंटेबल नहीं
LOP.
कह रहा हूँ कि, बट वो अब अन सर्कमस्टांसेस है ना सर, बारिश का तो
यार सिंपल बात बोल रहे हो चेतन शर्मा, कार्गो हैज टू बी लोडेड, कार्गो इज स्टोर्ड ऑन डेक, ऑन वेयरहाउस और सॉरी जेटी ओपन टू वेदर.
हाँ जी सर.
So that is a letter protest to the charterer or to the shipper that this
Okay.
cargo has been exposed to weather and rainfall has been intermittently happening. So we refuse to load because the moisture content of the cargo might have come up. Reason.
Okay sir.
Obviously, you cannot load cement cargo.
LOP is for safe owner for any claim.
No, sorry, didn't understand. Shashipal, say again.
मतलब जो LOP है वो ओनर को सेव करने के लिए, किसी भी क्लेम पे अगर कोई क्लेम आता है शिप पे या ओनर पे, उसको सेव करने के लिए वो LOP दिया जाता है.
LOP issue हो रहा है against somebody, holding another party responsible.
Sir,
When you have a
Just
party,
to save the
who
owner.
you consider to be responsible for any consequence, उसको दिया जाता
सर
है.
एक क्वेश्चन था सर एकदम.
एक मिनट अमित कुमार, जस्ट होल्ड डाउन, लेट अस कंप्लीट विद शशिपाल. हाँ जी शशिपाल.
अरे ओनर को या वेसल को सेव करने के लिए है, कोई भी क्लेम आता है, जैसे अभी सर कोई LOP इशू करता है या मास्टर कोई LOP देता है किसी दूसरे शिप को या किसी को भी, तो ओनर या तो ओनर को या शिप पे अगर कोई क्लेम ना आए, वो सेव करने के लिए है.
To protect the ship owner's interest, holding somebody,
yes, right, sir.
holding some other party responsible for any consequence, that is LOP.
सर आप नोटिस ऑफ प्रोटेस्ट का एक एग्जांपल बता दीजिए.
अभी
Clear हो
चल
जाए.
रहे हैं, अभी शुरू भी नहीं किया टॉपिक, अभी शुरू भी नहीं किया.
सर
उसके
एक
बाद
डाउट.
हाँ अमित बोलो.
जैसे सर लेटर ऑफ प्रोटेस्ट तो वी हेल्ड समवन रिस्पांसिबल किसी के अगेंस्ट एरिया, तो उससे हम क्लेम करेंगे फॉर द डैमेजेस और लॉसेस जो भी हुआ ऑनर के लिए. जो नोट ऑफ प्रोटेस्ट है ये सर फिर बाद में इंश्योरेंस के लिए क्लेम आता है क्या?
करेक्ट.
दिस इज
Number
ओनली फॉर इंश्योरेंस क्लेम ओनली.
नंबर 1. नंबर 2, अमित कुमार एंड ऑल ऑफ यू, इफ यू विल एग्री, आपने मुझे अभी स्टार्ट नहीं करने दिया टॉपिक, तो आई फील कि जब हम लोग शुरू करेंगे डिस्कशन, मोर थिंग्स विल बी क्लियर. So let me begin.
Okay.
Then we can talk about it. If you still have some queries, of course I have to address them. पर ये वैसी वाली बात हो गई अमित. I remember second mid class थी. I was not teaching. I just entered the class. One faculty had written on the whiteboard. Physical class थी. On the whiteboard he entered. He wrote GPS. ठीक है. सब्जेक्ट होगा ब्रिज इक्विपमेंट का GPS. अभी उसने सिर्फ ये लिखा था और पीछे से एक आवाज आई, सर अगर GPS बंद हो जाए तो. दिस फैकल्टी टर्न अराउंड और इसने बोला, ओ यार चल तो लेने दे, स्टार्ट तो हो जाने दे उसको, बंद करने के बाद में बात करेंगे. समझा कि नहीं?
ठीक है सर, ठीक है सर.
तो लेट अस बिगिन द टॉपिक. देयर आर एग्जांपल्स, देयर आर सेवरल थिंग्स वी नीड टू टॉक अबाउट, एंड ऑफ कोर्स चेतन शर्मा इज आल्सो इंटरेस्टेड टू सी एन एग्जांपल ऑफ LOP. देखते हैं. लेट अस स्टार्ट. Shall we begin, gentlemen? Note of protest. As I said, this is not holding anybody responsible. This is against nobody. And mostly I say, mostly note of protest is issued or used when during the course of the voyage your vessel has experienced bad weather, any extraordinary events which you feel that some damage or loss might have occurred to the vessel or cargo. Then you must prepare and submit a note of protest upon arrival. And this has to be notarized in a notary public. Matlab it is submitted with evidence, with all the paraphernalia, with all the witness records, etc. Whatever proofs you can give to submit that you are experiencing bad weather in the voyage, everything you collect and you submit in the notary public for getting it notarized. That is a note of protest. You are holding nobody responsible. You are just submitting a statement of facts that you had left the so and so port and so date, drop of last pilot was this time, and during the course of this voyage, let us say cross Pacific, you experienced heavy seas and weather, EGC messages, weather faxes all included, WNI reports all included to substantiate your claim, and then you go and get this notarized in the notary public. That is no NOP, note of protest. In this, please remember, you have not seen the damage yet. You are just fearing damage, that is all. You fear damage that might have been caused to the vessel or cargo or both, and you submit a note of protest to make sure that everybody is aware and you are somehow protected from insurance cover also. That is NOP, note of protest. So this is done before you actually start discharge. This is done before you start discharge. Once the discharge is started, this loses importance because then nobody is sure whether this has been damaged here during the voyage or what. So you do this on arrival within 24 hours. This is only a statement of fact. And also you're doing it for the purpose that you can preserve the ship owner's interest from any damages or claims. Because you're saying that things were beyond the control of the vessel, for which purpose the vessel hull or cargo might have been damaged. You have not seen the damages yet, but you are fearing damage. That is more than enough to give out a statement of fact in form of note of protest. As soon as you have a chance that a claim can arise from another party, you can resort to note of protest saying that actually things were beyond the control of the vessel. That is why this damage might have been occurring. Now, to continue, in this kind of note of protest, firstly, there should be only facts. Only facts. You have to keep it brief and only facts. Now, one thing is there, you must remember for note of protest, that one line is there at the end of the note of protest which says the vessel or master reserve the right to extend this protest at any given later convenient date. Which means why? Because you have not seen the damage, you are fearing. So you are saying that you will reserve the right to extend the protest when you actually cite the damage. This is also possible. Extension of the note of protest. Any one of you is leading in towards phase 2 also from here? मतलब phase 1 करो और उसके सीधे बाद phase 2 भी करो, ऐसा है कोई? Just casual inquiry.
No, sir, नहीं.
Okay. Chalo, anyway. So this is one thing. It should limit yourself to facts only, keeping it brief, and should be accompanied with all kinds of evidences which will help you to justify why you are making NOP. For example, if you are fearing damage due to weather, then what else, all things can be included in the evidence part or the record part, saying that you are fearing damage due to weather. What all can you include?
Sir, weather reports.
Weather reports, yes.
Weather facts are the plus weather facts also, sir.
Yes.
Photos.
Photos, very important. Photographs. What else?
Logbook entries.
Logbook, abstract. Weather abstract. from logbook. और क्या हो सकता है? Can I say engine room logbook?
सर नून रिपोर्ट में जो जाता है,
हाँ,
स्लिप जो कैलकुलेट होता है, रोटेशन ऑफ द बेसिकली इंजन, वो भी जा सकता है.
राइट. बट देखिए, आप उनको दे रहे हैं ना डेक लॉगबुक, उसका जेरोक्स दे रहे हैं. ऑल्सो you are also giving engine room logbook ka xerox, which is saying what RPM might have been reduced due to heavy weather. That is being captured in the engine room logbook. ये सारी चीजें रिकॉर्ड बनेगी ना. And the weather faxes which says on this and this date this was the weather. EGC messages, NAVTEX messages if applicable near the coast. All this will prove to be substantial evidence in support of your NOP. राइट. ये सब चीजें आप एक फाइल में लगाएंगे, इंक्लूडिंग द कवरिंग लेटर विच मे बी फ्रॉम योर एसएमएस. योर एसएमएस माइट कंटेन अ कवरिंग लेटर ऑन एनओपी. मोस्ट ऑफ द कंपनीज हैव अ एसएमएस जिसमें अंदर डॉक्यूमेंटेड होता है एनओपी, इंक्लूडिंग द डायरेक्शन टू द शिप मास्टर कि ये एनओपी फाइल होगा, किन किन को ये जाना है, टू whom it should go. Then you will attach all this and take it to the notary public. नोटरी पब्लिक में जाके आप इसको सबमिट करेंगे. नोटरी पब्लिक का जो ऑफिसर है, ही विल सी दैट एवरीथिंग इज बीइंग सेट करेक्टली. ही विल वेरीफाई स्टेटमेंट अगेंस्ट द फैक्ट्स यू आर प्रेजेंटिंग एंड देन नोटराइज कर देगा उसको दैट आई हैव सीन दैट ऑल दीज आर फैक्ट्स एज प्रोड्यूस. तो आपका एनओपी जो है, नोट ऑफ प्रोटेस्ट हो गया नोटराइज्ड, एंड दैट इज अ वे ऑफ डूइंग एनओपी. नाउ द एनओपी कैन बी यूज्ड to pass on to charterers, shippers, receivers, ship owners, etc. की ऐसी बात हुई है.
ओके सर, मैं ना सॉरी टू डिस्टर्ब सर, मैं शायद वही एग्जांपल दे रहा था, मुझे याद नहीं है. इट हैपेंड इन माय कैरेट शिप दैट वी वर लोडिंग क्लिंकर एंड some of the cargo was already loaded and some of the cargo was still remaining on the jetty.
Okay.
So, I don't remember actually, but I remember that captain said something that I need to give a protest because this cargo might get like we will not be able to clean it later on if it absorb the water, and now the rain has already come and it got wet also. So on that case, he maybe has given that protest. I don't remember actually, but that time he was talking about it. So that happens in my career ship.
Right.
Yeah, so I was giving that again.
Yeah. Okay. Possible. If you ask me, of course things are not very clear. आपका भी काफी टाइम हो गया कैडेटशिप करके, तो just as an overview, this sounds like a LOP, Lima Oscar Papa, letter of protest.
Okay.
Because what is your shipmaster doing? He's holding the charterer or the shipper responsible for this event. He's trying to say that because of misappropriation and wrong storage of cargo on the jetty exposed to weather, I will be having difficulties in cleaning this. So I hold you responsible for any delays which might be caused due to this.
अब सर एक क्वेश्चन है कि अगर उसने लेट से उन्होंने कार्गो पूरा लोड कर दिया या लास्ट स्टेज पे ख़त्म हो रहा है अभी और उस टाइम पे बारिश आ जाती है,
ठीक है,
और आपका कार्गो थोड़ा बहुत पानी में अब्जॉर्ब कर लेता है,
ठीक है,
जैसे थोड़ी बहुत, तो सर उस केस में क्या दे सकते हैं नोटिस ऑफ प्रोटेस्ट? बिकॉज ही इज फेयरिंग, बिकॉज ही इज हैव अ फेयर दैट इट माइट गेट.
yes you can.
क्या हम यस
You can. But having said that, please understand, because this is a case where somebody can be held accountable, more appropriate will be a letter of protest. You will hold the shipper responsible for this. Note of protest में nobody is responsible. See, note of protest में एक चीज आपको समझनी है that NOP, note of protest, is something which you are saying that things were beyond the control of the vessel. In your case, is it beyond the control of the vessel? Why did the vessel not shut the hold? Why did the vessel not stop loading? Can you say
Yes.
that things were beyond the control of the vessel and the cargo got wet?
नहीं एक्चुअली सर.
There is a basic difference. NOP में note of protest में you are simply saying that you fear damage to vessel or cargo because things were beyond the control of the vessel. Hence, you are registering a note of protest. Letter of protest is something you are doing to hold any other party responsible, accountable for this. And you are saying that any consequences due to this, you will be responsible. That is the difference. NOP में कोई है नहीं accountable. NOP is only for the purpose of insurance, where you are saying that things were beyond the control of vessel. Okay. बोलते जाओ, no issues.
No, yes sir, understood sir.
Okay, okay. Letter of protest can be only a legal document. Letter of protest. Account of events are there in letter of protest, but the problem is that a letter of protest is also something you are saying that efforts have been made to cover up somebody because somebody is accountable. Unlike NOP, NOP में कोई accountable नहीं है. It is just beyond the control. But LOP में letter of protest में you're holding one party responsible for whatever consequence might happen. LOP तो कई examples हैं. People who have worked on tankers will realize it, right? What
Yes,
happens for pumping rate?
The
For
pumping
the
rate,
delay
the
in
charge.
connection of the manifold?
सर
Delay
लॉग
connection.
लोडिंग में अगर
Less
लॉग
less
गीले होने हैं तो
connection sir.
उसमें दे देते हैं बार्ज में पड़े पड़े कि एलओपी दे रहे हैं.
Right. What about off-spec cargo? Off-spec.
सर फ्री वाटर का
उसमें LOP
सर
आता है ना?
सर अगर फर्टिलाइजर्स लोड करने हैं तो उसमें ग्रेड अगर खराब हो जाए या इफ देयर इज सम डस्ट.
Off-spec ना, off-spec बोलते हो ना उसको. In all these cases, you have
सीपी चार्टर पार्टी के जो क्लॉज से सब डिफरेंस ज्यादा हो जाता है उसके लिए भी सर एलओपी रहता है.
किसके लिए? सॉरी
सर एलओपी देते हैं उसके लिए भी अगर क्वांटिटी डिफरेंस में ज्यादा आ जाता है.
हाँ बिल्कुल बिल्कुल.
सर डिले के लिए, फ्री प्रतीक के
शोर
लिए,
फिगर्स
सर
एंड शिप फिगर्स.
शोर फिगर्स के लिए, कार्गो होस्ट कनेक्शन के लिए, मूरिंग का थोड़ा बहुत टाइम अगर ज़्यादा हो जाए उसके लिए, सर ग्रेड में थोड़ा सा डिफरेंस हो गया उसके लिए, हर चीज़ के लिए देते हैं सर, कुछ भी हो जाए.
That is LOP. Lima Oscar Papa. LOP. Because here you are holding somebody responsible for the consequences which might happen due to this. Right? This is a kind of letter of protest given to cargo receivers. Not very important, just as an example only. This is actually telling you that the vessel encountered heavy weather, for which he fears damage, fearing loss or damage to vessel and her cargo. Even though, ये line note करो, even though the ship's course and speed was altered to maintain good seamanship. I hereby note protest against all losses and damages which may have been suffered during this voyage. This is NOP, note of protest. And note this line, reserving the right to extend the same at a time and place convenient to the vessel. देखा आपने? This is NOP, note of protest. This is only an example. All facts are given here. Firstly, from where it departed, the port, laden with what cargo, how many tons, delivery at which port, cargo receivers, name mentioned, and during the voyage on these dates. Heavy weather was encountered. इसमें फिर आप लिखना शुरू करोगे logbook abstract enclosed, vessel encountered stormy seas, heavy seas, wind force 7, 8, whatever you want to write, right? Everything will now be put into this account. देखो एक बार पढ़ के, it's an interesting one. NOP, note of protest. Okay, to continue, you can understand from here also the basics of note of protest. This is a declaration under oath by master. It covers circumstances beyond the master control which may have caused and can cause loss or damage to the ship or cargo. It can cause the master to leave an unsafe port, which can render the owners liable for legal action. That is why, to avoid the owners getting liable for legal action, the master is declaring a note of protest. It is a notarized statement. You know, after a rough voyage is very common after a rough voyage to note a protest, because the purpose is to protect ship's charterer or owner from liability for damage because circumstances beyond the control. So what the note of protest is stressing upon is that this damage must have been caused or could be caused by the perils of the sea for which he is insured. So this has to be made before a notary public. This has to be made before a notary public. Now this is actually the law, but what happens is practically the agent takes a full file from the master and brings it to the notary public, presents it to the notarized public officer who stamps it and gives it back to the agent. Agent brings it back. But the law says this should go, the master should produce the notarized statement before the notary public for note of protest to be registered at that particular notary public. Now, this is important. If this is being made in relation to cargo, then this should be made before unloading cargo, before breaking bulk. so that no damaged cargo की liability हो. This should be done if you are making an NOP in relation to cargo. This should be done before unloading cargo, immediately on arrival rather. After you have made it, got it notarized, stamped, then it should be extended to all concerned parties. Please remember, the most common issue is when the vessel has experienced adverse weather, which might have resulted in damage to cargo. Cargo is shipped in such a case, in such a condition that it is likely to be damaged during the voyage. Then also NOP can be given. This is also there, extension of protest, reserving the right to extend the protest at a time and place convenient to the vessel. This is included as an integral part of any NOP, so that, because you see, NOP is being done even for fearing damage. So damage is not cited as yet. So the vessel will reserve the right to extend the protest at a time and place convenient, which means when he actually cites it. This thing is clear? Extending protest. Okay.
यस सर.
बैठे हैं ना आप लोग? बैठे तो है.
Yes, sir.
आवाज नहीं आ रही थी, कोई आवाज ही नहीं आ रही थी.
यस सर, बैठे हैं, सारे बैठे हैं.
ओके, वेरी गुड.
यस सर.
सर दो जनों ने तो ये डाला भी था लिख के, वो उसका रिप्लाई नहीं किया आपने, कोई रिस्पॉन्स ही नहीं किया.
मेरे से कह रहे हैं कुछ, बोलिए.
सर मैं कह रहा हूँ
यूज ऑफ शोरिंग पूछ रहा है सर. यूज ऑफ शोरिंग पूछ रहा है.
यूज ऑफ शोरिंग वेयर? ये चैट बॉक्स में कुछ लिखा हुआ है, बट मैं समझा नहीं. भारत भूषण
सर वो ऊपर सिलेबस में था, आपने बोला सारा हो गया है.
कौन से में? हैवी लिफ्ट में?
हाँ सर, जब आप सिलेबस
यार ऐसा है, शोरिंग मतलब समझते हैं आप? शोरिंग
सपोर्ट करना होता
है. सपोर्ट है ना, लेकिन कहाँ पे यूज होती है? इट इज यूज इफ यू हैव अ गैप बिटवीन द बल्कहेड एंड द कार्गो. उसमें फिर वुडन फ्रेमिंग लगाई जाती है, व्हिच इज कॉल्ड शोरिंग. दिस इज मोर एक्सटेंसिवली यूज्ड इन स्टील कार्गो. जब आपका गैप हो जाए बल्कहेड और कार्गो के बीच में, तो उसमें शोरिंग की जाती है.
सर वेजेस होती हैं. वेजेस के माफिक सर?
वेजेस नहीं, वेजेस डिफरेंट है. वेजेस इज समथिंग डिफरेंट.
अच्छा.
Just hold on. When we go for steel cargo, I will tell you, I will show you photographs also. Shoring is actually done to prevent the cargo moving around. When there is a gap between the bulkhead and the cargo, then it is shored. तो उसमें wedge frames डाल दिए जाते हैं, so that the cargo is fully compact. We will come to that, because when we talk of steel cargo, shoring तो एक terminology है. Shoring means compacting the cargo if there is a gap between the cargo and the bulkhead. It could be for any cargo, deep or round, heavy lift. It could be for steel cargo. It could be for any cargo. Shoring. Chetan, you also had the same issue? Shivang and Bharat Bhushan.
Okay sir.
We could talk more about it, no problem.
थैंक यू सर.
Thank you. अभी इसको कंप्लीट करें. अच्छा, अब एक और चीज आ रहा है. We saw note of protest. What about letter of protest? We also discussed it. It is when some party is responsible for consequence. Then you issue letter of protest. ये वाला. Personal objection or disapproval of an act. One of the most common places or the most common incidents is when there is a discrepancy between ship and shore figures. Suspect of water content, or if there is a damage or loss to cargo, even while loading. Then there is a letter of protest, especially for discrepancies between ship and shore figures. Shore figures are there for bulk cargo also, loaded so many metric tons of bulk cargo. How do you have a ship figure for that?
ड्राफ्ट सर्वे.
ड्राफ्ट सर्वे. वेरी गुड, वेरी गुड, क्योंकि वो भी आपके सिलेबस में है, ड्राफ्ट सर्वे. सो द ड्राफ्ट सर्वे का मेन पर्पज यही है, टू एस्टैब्लिश शिप फिगर्स, एंड यू हैव शोर फिगर्स आल्सो बाय मेट्रिक स्केल्स और बाय द वेट पासिंग थ्रू वे स्केल. तो आपकी शोर फिगर आती है. अगर इन दोनों में फर्क है, देन यू हैव अ लेटर ऑफ प्रोटेस्ट इशूड बाय द शिप टू द चार्टर. लेटर ऑफ प्रोटेस्ट में एक प्रॉब्लम है, बिकॉज यू आर गिविंग.
छोटा सा डाउट था.
हाँ बोलिए
सर. सिंस आई हैव नॉट डन एनी बल्क कैरियर, तो जो ये ड्राफ्ट सर्वे होता है ये चार्टर कराता है या शिपर, ये जो मतलब कंसाइनी रहते हैं ये कराते हैं
साथ में?
अगर दोनों कराएं,
जैसे अभी
दोनों कराएं, you have two draft surveyors, one for the shipper and one for the cargo, for the ship owner. अब बोलो, ये भी होता है.
जैसे अभी आपने बोला सर के शिप का वो जो है शिप शोर फिगर में जो डिफरेंस रहता है, शिप का ड्राफ्ट फिगर इससे ड्राफ्ट सर्वे से चलता है और उनका कोई वे स्केल वगैरह से रहेगा. तो सिंस दोनों ने एक साथ मिलके किया, जैसे एज टैंकर पे होता है, तो एक ये चार्टर का सर्वेयर आता है, एक शिप का जो बंदा रहता है वो अपना कार्गो का लेजिंग वगैरह करके कर लेता है. तो उसमें दोनों का साथ में करते हैं, फिर भी ये डिस्क्रिपेंसी रहती है क्या?
आ सकती है. Depends on how the survey is being done, right?
सर पर ड्राफ्ट सर्वे को प्रायोरिटी पे मानते हैं बिफोर द वेइंग स्केल, और उसके अलावा अदर देन चाइना जहाँ मैं गया वहाँ मैक्सिमम जगह ड्राफ्ट सर्वे को प्रायोरिटाइज मानते हैं.
नहीं, मैं समझा नहीं. इज ड्राफ्ट सर्वे सुप्रीम प्रेसिडेंस that takes
Yes.
more importance than anything else?
मैक्सिममली सर सम ऑफ द पोर्ट्स लाइक जहाँ पे कार्गो ट्रक्स में खाली हो रहा है या वैसे हो रहा है तो वेइंग स्केल पे नापते हैं. पर व्हेन देयर इज अ डिफरेंस दे गो द सर्वेयर कम एंड फिर ड्राफ्ट सर्वे होता है एट द इनिशियल और इंटरमीडिएट भी जो होता है. तो इट्स लाइक सुप्रीम थिंग इज ड्राफ्ट सर्वे ओनली एज कंपेयर टू द मशीनरी वेइंग स्केल. इनफैक्ट इन ऑस्ट्रेलिया आल्सो दे केम विद अ ड्राफ्ट सर्वे ओनली.
Well, you will be surprised. There are many ports, many charterers, many shippers, many receivers who go by shore figures, even though a draft survey is done. This is also a fact. But what I'm saying is, when you talk of letter of protest, if there is a discrepancy between the figures of the shore and the ship, you can issue a letter of protest saying that there is a discrepancy. Now, what will be accepted later will depend on the ship owner and his receiver of the cargo, what they want to come to conclusion to. But you can issue a LOP. Okay, there is a difference between shore and ship figures. Ship figures will come from draft survey. Shore figures will come from weighing scales. Get my point?
सर ये किस टाइप का कार्गो उस पर भी डिपेंड करता होगा ना सर?
We were talking of draft survey.
हाँ जी सर, ड्राफ्ट सर्वे में भी
हाँ.
सर जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल टैंकर में अगर मोलासिस लोड किया जाता है
हाँ.
तो उसमें शोर फिगर्स भी ड्राफ्ट सर्वे से ही कैलकुलेट करनी पड़ती हैं, लाइक क्योंकि उसमें फ्रॉथ हो जाता है ना, तो उस पे भी डिपेंड करता होगा ना कि कार्गो किस टाइप का है, राइट?
The reason why you do the draft survey because you cannot carry out volumetric calculations, क्योंकि आपने जैसे बोला करेक्टली फ्रॉस्ट बिल्डअप हो गया.
हाँ, तो उसमें दिखाता है 25 मीटर है बट वो होता 18 मीटर ही है, मतलब ऐसे.
तब ड्राफ्ट सर्वे लगाओगे. I did not get you. ठीक है, ड्राफ्ट सर्वे हो रहा है, क्या प्रॉब्लम है? ड्राफ्ट सर्वे कंक्लूजन दे रहा है ना तुम्हें कितना कार्गो लोडेड है.
हाँ जी, हाँ जी.
अगर उसके अगेंस्ट में कोई दूसरा इनपुट नहीं है, रिगार्डिंग एनी शोर फिगर, तो वही फिगर फाइनल हो जाएगी। अब लेटर ऑफ प्रोटेस्ट कई इंसिडेंट तो हमने डिस्कस कर ही लिए आपके साथ में। हाउ इट इज इशूड, व्हेन रीजंस आर देयर फॉर लेटर ऑफ प्रोटेस्ट, delays in berthing and berthing, delays in loading discharge terminal, means waiting for ship to finish, waiting for daylight, overloaded, short loaded, according to charter party, letter of protest. Difference between BL and ship figure, letter of protest. Charter party dates, discharge ports, cargo quantities, discrepancies, slow loading at request of terminal, LOP आ जाएगा, slow loading from the agreed speed or the bunker manifold, non bunker cargo manifold रेट, अगर उससे कम है या ज्यादा है तो आपका LOP आ सकता है। एंड डेफिनेटली इन केस वेर यू हैव डिस्क्रिपेंसी बिटवीन शिप एंड शोर फिगर्स ऑफ कार्गो, लेटर ऑफ प्रोटेस्ट इज फाइनल, होगा ही होगा, राइट? एनीथिंग यू वांट टू रेज जेंटलमैन? अच्छा, हैवी लिफ्ट, ओके। Okay, there's something I want to ask you. एक लिंक शेयर किया था मैंने आपके साथ to get into Google Drive and see, you know,
Yes,
anything.
sir, have.
You have it?
Yes, sir.
You have that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. मैंने उसमें हैवी लिफ्ट के बारे में कुछ डाला है. See if you can open it.
Yes, sir, we can open.
हैवी लिफ्ट वाला दिख रहा है ना?
Yes, sir.
Okay. For people who missed out, एक बार और डाल रहा हूँ यहाँ पे हैवी ये लिंक जिससे आपको ये राइट अप मिल सकते हैं. ये if you have missed out, okay. So you just download it, open it, you can see. दो टॉपिक आ चुके हैं उसमें, एक तो हैवी लिफ्ट का है और दूसरा ISM. And then we will continue using this. What do you say?
हाँ जी सर, हो गया डाउन. थैंक यू.
I thought this is the best method to pass something, you know, just in case you feel कि हमारे पास कुछ होना चाहिए रीडिंग मटेरियल, तो ये बेस्ट तरीका है. What do you say?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. जैसे जैसे हम टॉपिक कवर करते जाएंगे, I will use this link to pass on. Anything you want to raise for this session? Note of protest, bill of lading is still to be done. It is continuing. But up till now, do you have any query? Okay, if you do not have an immediate query, you may respond to the chat box. And for today, I'm done. For this session, I'm done.
किराया मांगने जाता हूँ, कागज पूछती है, मुझे बोलती है तेरे झोंपड़े नाजायज है, मैं अखबार में लिखूंगी, पुलिस को बोल दूंगी, ऐसा करता ही है। नहीं, करता कौन है? लेकिन जब भी मिलती है ना तो भाषा झाड़ती है। एक बार कभी मिल जाऊंगा ना, तो ऐसे बराबर कर दूंगा तो उसके अखबार में। चल तू अपने राशन की बात करिए। नहीं दिया तो क्यों भूल गया क्या? बड़ा बंदर कुआ बेटा फिटोस। मालूम है छोटा दिमाग होता है, मालूम है। अरे मालूम है छोटा दिमाग होता है, बचपन से मालूम, अभी तक मरा है क्या? ये ले तेरे 5 पत्तों की हरियाली ले और ऐश कर। क्या बापू और मेरी जेब खर्ची? जा बेटे आ जा तू आ जा। मेरे को 500 रुपए दिए, देख क्या हवा रही है। सारा दिन भर तो कुछ काम धंधा तो करता है नहीं, है? मोटरसाइकिल चमकाते रहता है। ये क्या 100? अरे नसीब वाला है, मेरा बाप तो मुझे 10 रुपए देता था। फिर नसीब वाला है, ऐसा बाप तुझे कहाँ मिलेगा? जा ऐश कर जा।
Please keep yourself muted. This is a recorded session.